Okay. Hi, Mr. Munoz. Thank you so much for joining us. We are excited to meet with you today.
Well, hello, I'm excited to meet with you as well. Very interested.
Okay. Why don't we start with you telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I've been in education for 29 years. And during that time, I've been a band director. And so I had lots of different experiences from being an assistant director when I started my career to being a head director for over 20 years.
Mhm.
And very successful programs. So, as an assistant director, I had first division ensembles and was able to work with the head director in a collaborative manner to make sure that we were meeting the needs of our students and our community. Because in the band program, you deal with a lot more than just what your students are doing in the classroom every day. There's a community component to what we do. So we would make sure that we're meeting the needs of our local campus, making sure we're meeting the needs of our community and being active in that community. But most importantly to us was meeting the needs of our students every single day. And so after that, I was an assistant director for 6 years at the Woodlands High School,
Mhm.
and then I moved to Oak Ridge High School as the head band director. I was there for 4 years, 10 years in Clear Lake High School, and then 8 years at Pearland High School. Now, 9 years now, going into my 10th year there. And during that time as well, had first division ensembles at UIL. When I was at Clear Lake, we performed at the Midwest Band and Orchestra Clinic, which is one of the highest honors that a band can receive. It's going and playing at a conference in Chicago for an international conference. I've also had ensembles that have placed at the State Marching Band Contest. I've had ensembles that have finished in the top 10 in honor band, which is for concert band.
Wow.
And so lots of successes, but I'll be honest with you, those successes don't mean a whole lot to me. We're always about what experiences can we provide our students,
Wow.
and how is that going to make, what meaningful activities can we do and experiences can we have them have that are going to be meaningful to them, but also give them a foundation to be successful in whatever career they're going to do, because we know that about 1% of the students that we teach are going to go into music. And
Wow.
so we're building lifelong skills for those students in terms of working in a collaborative manner with other students, and working to be successful, and working through difficulties at times, and going through challenges, and working through plateaus that you may have. And so also had the opportunity to serve my profession at Texas Music Educators Association. I was on the executive board for that. So that was 5 years. I was the president of the Centennial Celebration for TMEA, the 100 years. And so that was a great experience in providing leadership to the entire state in terms of what we can do to promote music education. And again, taking it down to the student level, what experiences can we provide to help all students, not just the 5% that are in the fluent districts, but the 95% students that are in music classes every single day, band, orchestra, choir, and elementary, and college students that are the quality education for us includes a quality music education for all students. And so I was very active on the state level doing that as well.
Yeah, you have such a variety of experience. I appreciated listening to that. So tell me, Mr. Munoz, if we were to watch you teaching kids music, what would we see, what would we hear, and what would we feel in your classroom?
So what would you see, hear, and feel?
Mhm.
Well, what you would see is a very organized class. You would see objectives on the screen.
Mhm.
You would see that we expect students to be engaged. You would see our classroom procedures
Mhm.
posted in the classroom. You would see students that were enjoying one another and enjoying the interaction that they're having with the teacher in the classroom.
Mhm.
You would not hear the teacher, myself, giving a lot of specific instruction. You would see a lot of questions being asked.
Okay.
And so I work really hard to lead my students to through their experiences to come up with the answers that we need to explore to help our ensemble get better.
Mhm.
And so I really believe in making it a cognitive process. So I'm going to ask the students, what did you hear? I'm going to give the students 2 goals in our rehearsal for each rep, whatever we're working on. We're going to have 2 goals. We're going to have the students. You're going to hear the students identify those goals to me,
Mhm.
and so that clarifies to them that their listening skills are being used, because we believe listening is a skill and it must be developed. And so we can identify that to the students, and then you're going to see a lot of analytical skills on the level of the students.
Right.
And so we really require them to be active thinkers and really thinking about in terms of where we are in the Bloom's taxonomy, in terms of the questions that we're asking students to do, in
Mhm.
terms of evaluation and analysis. And you might hear me say, a student gives a short answer and I say, can you elaborate on that?
Right.
Can you explain it in a different way?
Mhm.
And so that helps resonate with other students and those kinds of things. So I think you'd see an interaction. Um, again, you would hear questioning going on. You would hear students being actively engaged in the class in terms of contributing. And of course, you'd hear us playing. But the analysis of a lot will be asked in terms of what to the students, what do you hear, so that they can provide the foundation. I always talk to students about they're the musicians, they're the people creating the art. I'm just the tour guide. I get to lead them to new experiences in terms of what they're doing in terms of that. But the students generate, and very much in a constructivist type model, in
Mhm.
terms of the students help lead us to how we're going to explore those objectives and get them on the way. I know where we need to get them, but they're going to help figure out how we're going to get them there. And
Right.
so that it differentiates and it meets all of the students.
Mhm.
And I think in terms of how it would feel, it's going to feel very organized. It's going to feel very structured, but it's also going to feel very nurturing, because that's my number one concern is about the experiences that our students are having, and are we making it a positive environment in our classroom.
Right. So what does an ideal planning session look like for you? A lesson planning session?
Well, it's detailed. I have to analyze what my students are doing. So there's lots of different analytical tools that we use. So we have individual student listenings that
Mhm.
we do periodically. So I'll take that data, and we have forms that we use that we mark down what the students are doing. So I have specific assessments of every single student and how they're playing. So I
Mhm.
look at that data and I look and see how I can formulate in what we're working on as a full class. How can I provide individual opportunities for students to play so they can develop individually in the class? That might be being a model in an exercise that we use every day, and then having the full ensemble respond to that model. We'll also do analysis on terms of what our fundamentals are
Mhm.
and where we are in our development of those fundamentals. I keep recordings of that so that I record it for multiple reasons. One of them is to analyze myself in terms of how I'm instructing the class. But 2, I'm also using that as a tool to understand where we are in our development of our fundamentals, because I believe that if we don't have the fundamental skills to achieve what we're trying to achieve in the music that we're working on, then I have to devise strategies to be able to have my students build their skills to be
Right.
able to ultimately perform what we want to perform. And
Wonderful.
so the analysis is a really important part. And then it'd be very detailed in terms of structuring the class, in terms of how much time we're going to use in fundamentals, what kind of questions are we going to ask the students, because I write those down so that I don't forget. And I can keep it very structured. It helps with the pacing of the class. And then I also write in what kind of assessment tools we're going to do. Are we going to use strategies where students are assessing other students while we're playing in the ensemble? And so I have those things charted out and my expectations of how that's going to go. And I can pivot with the experience that I have if things aren't going quite the way that I want it to go. So I think it would be very detailed. It'd be very organized. I use an app called Timer with Sections. So I chart out how much time I'm going to spend in each section of my rehearsal.
Mhm.
And then and that keeps me on track in terms of my pacing and making sure that I get all the things that I want to get in that specific class.
Right. Now, you mentioned a lot of your contributions to your previous schools and the music educators community in general. Can you tell us a little bit about your contributions at your school specifically, where you're coming from?
Yeah. I've been on, I've been a department chair. Okay,
Mhm,
so I've been on the leadership council for our school,
mhm,
and we do monthly meetings on
mhm.
that, and we talk about the direction of the school. The principal gets feedback on different initiatives, and once our input and feedback, I'm very happy to say that anytime the principal thinks of a new initiative that he wants to incorporate with the leadership team on our campus, he comes to me, to my
Mm,
office, to see how it's going to affect what's going on in the band program.
right,
And I've also served on district level committees. I was on the return to school committee after the pandemic,
right.
and preparing. That was actually going on during the pandemic to have us come back to school after the pandemic.
Mhm,
And so I was very involved on a district wide level with a district wide committee, providing feedback for fine arts teachers. But not only that, I was responsible for representing all of the elective teachers in our district. And so that was a unique opportunity to have a small piece of leadership in terms of what the district was doing. And I was excited about what we were able to provide our students in coming out of that. Also, I consider in the position I'm in, it's a high profile position. So I consider that to be, a situation in terms of where I actually have to lead in the community as well,
right.
because I have to have conversations with not only our band parents, but community leaders, business owners, and those kinds of things when we're doing different activities. In 2020, we went and we performed in the Rose Parade, and that required a huge effort in terms of community involvement for fundraising. And so I was very involved in working with our community leaders to try to support our students so we can make that trip.
Nice. And what do you see as your contributions at our school if you join us?
Well, I think you would find somebody that's a collaborator,
Mhm,
somebody that's interested in digging down and finding out what the needs of the specific campus are,
mhm,
and that would be done through conversations with you, the principal, or with other teachers. I pride myself on not being just stuck in my bubble of the band room.
mm,
I get out and talk to other teachers on campus and see basically, if band kids aren't doing the things that they're supposed to be doing in the classroom, I want the teacher to come to me,
right,
because we have different ways that we can work with our students, in terms of what our expectations are, because they're a reflection of our program in every classroom every single day.
right.
And so I think you'd find that I'd be interested in having our students achieve academically, and finding ways that we could support that through the music program. And but you'd find somebody that's energetic,
Mhm,
that's highly passionate about education, and somebody that's not willing to get their hands dirty in terms of whatever needs to be done on the campus to help whatever part of the campus we need to help.
okay. Now, I'm going to share a scenario with you. What if you're working in a collaborative team and one of your teammates presents an idea that you don't like? How would you handle that situation?
I look at that as opportunity,
Mhm,
because I don't know that I would ever. I'm sure maybe that there would be opportunities where somebody would present something and I didn't like it right off the bat, but I don't approach discussions like that in that manner. Uh, I believe that all growth comes from conversation,
mhm,
and through my leadership on the TMEA board, I prided myself on any member of TMEA of the 16,000 members. Any member could present an idea to the board, any board member, and we would discuss it. I didn't decide what the validity of it was.
mhm,
It needed to be discussed. And so that's the approach that I take. So if I have a reservation about a direction that somebody wants to go, we just need to have a conversation. Maybe I need to be more educated and
mhm,
understand. And I wouldn't want my own limitations to limit the scope of what the campus could do or
mhm,
what I could do in my classroom. I have mentors that come in and clinic my band all the time. And it's not because I don't know how to educate students in terms of how to be, good musicians and play in band. It's because I want to continue to grow.
right.
And so, and you can't grow if you're constantly only doing self-assessment.
Mm,
You can't grow if you're the only person presenting ideas, because your scope is limited, and you never know who's going to come up with a great idea that you never thought about. And you can adapt it. Teachers are great thieves. So if somebody comes up with a great idea and it works incredibly well, then I'm going to take it and it's going to become part of what I do, because I want to do everything that I can do for things to be incredibly successful.
Okay.
So I wouldn't look at it as an opportunity. This is the way we're going to do it because this is what I believe. I think there constantly needs to be. I go into it with an open mind, and so if I have a different opinion, convince me why yours is better.
Mhm. All right. So how do you handle conflicts in the work environment?
And you know, having conflicts, it's not something we want to do. I haven't had a lot of them. Uh, but the way that you work that, generally I've found in my career, conflicts happen when there's poor communication,
Mm,
generally. And whether that's poor communication on your part because you're used to doing something a certain way and you have a new member on the staff and they don't know how you think,
mhm,
and you didn't do the proper foundation to give them the understanding of how you want to do something. Um, but or I've dealt with it with sharing facilities with other groups on campus,
mhm.
and generally it is all about communication.
Right.
So I would work to understand what the conflict is. If I'm the means of the conflict, then I would work to find a resolution to it, a compromise to it, because generally there always is a middle ground somewhere, and we can work to find that. And again, just go back to the discussion we just had a second ago. I
Mhm,
don't think that my way is the only way.
mhm,
So if I have that conflict, I want to sit down. I want to do it in an environment that's non-confrontational,
mhm.
and that is professional, and that we work through what our issues are and understand how we got to the conflict,
Right.
and understand the ways that we can navigate in the future that keep us to coming to that point. Because if we don't have that clarity, then we're going to end up running into those same roadblocks,
Right.
because we don't. I think both parties have to understand how do we get to where we can have a positive working relationship,
Mhm.
working through conflict. And frankly, in the way that I do things, I want to have some conflict because I want people to challenge me, to challenge my thinking. And whenever I have new staff members on board, that's the first thing I say. You're coming in with new ideas,
Mhm.
and so you may have to challenge me, and that's okay. It's okay to have that kind of conflict, but
Right.
it's the most important part is to have the dialogue so that we can all learn from it and we can all grow from it.
All right. So share with us what motivates you.
Students,
Mhm.
students motivate me like nothing else,
Right.
because they're just pieces of clay and they can be molded any way. And they come into our environment, they come in, very, very green in terms of what they can do as a musician. And by the time that they experience a few years with us, we're so fortunate that we get to see students generally a lot more than other teachers do. They might get them for 1 year. And depending on what level we're teaching at, if I'm in a middle school, I'm going to see them for 2 years. If I'm in an elementary school, I'm going to see the elementary students for 6 years.
Right.
If I'm in a high school, I'm going to see them for 4 years. And so we get to have different relationships with students because of that time. And that's why, to me, that's what excites me every single day.
Right.
How are they going to change? I love teaching, and I love breaking things down. And I love it when a student has an epiphany
Mm,
and you see the light bulb go on and they get it, and they have an experience that they've never had before.
mhm.
And I think it's just as cool to have a student come in and talk to me about how they were in calculus class, and they finally got it.
Mm,
And I go to that teacher and go, hey, I want you to know that this student really, really got it today. And they were thanking me for how you helped them lead it there. And they probably will never come to you and
right.
tell you that. So the students are my passion, and the experiences that they get to have, that's what drives me every single day.
Right. So, Mr. Munoz, what type of assessments do you use in your class and how do you use them?
Yeah, I alluded to that before. I
Mhm,
do individual listings of students. So let's say we're preparing for region band auditions. Those students get that music in August.
mhm,
And once we start school in the middle of August, then we start having individual listings with students. And so they come in and play a small portion of the region music that's not overwhelming
mhm,
and gets them going, and we can give them direct feedback. But at that same time, I have a form that I use that I'm evaluating the student.
mhm,
And then we have them do self-evaluations. We have a rubric that we use about the performance levels, and it's broken down into points, and it has designations for what each level is. And so before the students come in and play for us, we ask the students to do a self-assessment
Right.
on the same form. And so they do that assessment, they bring that form in, we do our assessment, and at the end, we compare the two assessments.
Right.
And we let the students know how we listen to it and what we have identified with what they've identified.
Mm.
And we see if they line up and they're close together. And some of the students are really quite good at listening to themselves, recording themselves, and doing a self-assessment, and having it be very similar to the assessments that we do.
Mm.
And then, of course, in what we do in terms of UIL,
Mm-hmm.
it's an evaluation, and we use that as a means of assessment in what we do. And they do that at solo and ensemble contests. Any contest that we go to is an assessment, because we get feedback from judges, and we're ranked. In some contests we're ranked against other bands, and so we use all of that data to formulate how do we structure strategies to help students improve and get better every single day.
Right. And how do you stay current in the field of music education?
Professional development
Mm-hmm.
is a great way to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think experiences, one of the best ways to stay current is to go where the top achievement is happening. So, I mean, I've participated in the state marching band contest a lot, but on the years that I'm not, then I go and attend the state marching band contest, because I want to see what's cutting edge. What are people doing?
Mm-hmm.
How do we move what we're doing to the next level? Targeted professional development through TMEA and Texas Bandmasters Association in the summer are great ways, because those are the PDs that are wrapped around what we specifically do. But there are professional developments that happen in our school district, technology-based professional development that I've attended that have nothing to do with music. But how do you do Excel sheets effectively? I attended a great PD on shortcuts that you can use just in terms of Word and Excel, and just things that make what you have to do data entry wise go a lot faster. Or if you're using a YouTube clip, to put a period at the end of the URL, and that makes it to where the ad doesn't come up. And so there's lots of great PDs that are out there, but I think professional development and reading and doing surveying my parents, surveying my students, that provides valuable information for how we're structuring and running our program, and whether it's meeting the needs of our community.
Let's talk about goals a little bit. Where do you see yourself 5 or 10 years from now?
Well, that might be a hard question for me, but I see myself continuing to grow, and I'm working on my master's work now, and people look at me funny when I say that, but I want to continue to grow, and I want to continue to improve. And I've always told people, like, if I get to the point where I don't want to grow anymore and I can't learn anymore, then tell me to retire and tell me to go do something else. And but that's where I'm at. What can I do to continue to improve myself so that I can continue to provide my students with what they need to be on the cutting edge to be able to be successful whatever they want to do. And so I think as you continue to grow and sharpen your own sword, or saw, however you want to think about it, that's what I continue to have to do. And a lot of that involves working with colleagues and working with people that are younger than I am, and getting their perspective, and learning from my students. I learn just as much from my students every day as I hope they learn from me. And so I just want to continue to improve and get better. There's not much more I can do in the band world, so maybe I moved into administration or something like that, where I can have a greater effect on more students rather than just the students I'm seeing in my classroom every single day.
Right. So share with us your discipline philosophy.
I think that music education is a valuable and integral part of every child's education, and that's because in this day and age, there's so much focus on social emotional learning, and that's what we provide every single day, and we've done it for millennia, and just meeting those needs of the students
Mhm.
and focused on that. And that just makes everything come into focus for me, in terms of what we need to do.
So suppose in your class, you have a learner who's being constantly disruptive. How would you handle that situation?
Well, I would do the non assertive ways first, which would be simply first to use proximity.
Mhm,
So I would put myself very close to the student,
mhm,
and not even be focusing on how they're not on task or they're not motivated. So I would just, the proximity heightens their awareness, and that may change the behavior right there.
right.
If that doesn't do that, then I might kneel down next to them and say, hey, are you okay? Is there something I need to know about? Do you need some time? Do you
Mhm,
need to go to the restroom? Um, what can we do to help you get involved? And usually that'll do it, because maybe they just, they had an AP assignment and they didn't get any sleep,
mhm,
and they're not all there mentally because they stayed up all night working on a project. Sometimes it's that. And so you just need to understand the students and where they're at. If it continues to be a problem and disrupt other students,
mhm,
then that's where it takes, a little bit more direct approach. So I will, that's a point where you might call out the student and say, hey, Johnny, I need you I need you to take care of what you're doing here so that we can all be working toward the same goal. We have a luxury in band, and that's just put the horn in the mouth or to the face and we play. And if they don't put the horn to their face or in their mouth and play, then there's another issue, and we need to move forward. So after that, I would move to having a conversation with the student outside of class as they're traveling to the next class. Say, hey, what's going on? How can I help you? I
mhm,
always try to do it in terms of a helping manner.
mhm.
And then ultimately, if those things don't work, then that's where you have to start using the things that are in the system. But I can tell you, I mean, in my career, I've written up 3 students,
Oh,
five
wow.
students, maybe, because you can always find a way to redirect the child,
Yes.
and we want to make it a great experience for them. And ultimately, I get to the point where I say, hey, if this isn't a great experience for you, then how can we make it better for you? And if we can't, how can we get you in an activity that you're more interested in, that you can be fulfilled by?
Right.
Because if our activity isn't doing it, then there's got to be something out there that will.
Okay. So suppose that you were talking about competitions and performances. Suppose you have a parent that reaches out to you that they're not satisfied with their child's music performance, or um, so how would you deal with that?
And we get that, because when we have our auditions and we have band placements
Hmm.
in the middle of the year and at the end of the year, I might get a parent that's upset that their child wasn't put in a certain band or anything like that. So first of all, you meet with the parent and you understand that their job is to advocate for their child,
Hmm.
and you need to understand that as a teacher, and that's okay. Uh, and we certainly want our parents to be involved in their child's education.
Hmm.
And so the first thing I do is listen. I'm an active listener. And I think that's sometimes hard, especially for younger teachers, because you want to go right to defense mode.
Yeah.
And so I just let the parents say their piece. Really, 8 times out of 10, the parents will talk themselves in a big circle, and they will start out really upset, and then they will clarify to themselves why their child didn't get something, and then they'll ask me to clarify it back for them again, and I'll just say, well, you identified why your child didn't achieve what they were trying to achieve, and you said that they didn't practice at home, and you wish that they would do that more, and I wish they would do that more too, because that resulted in them not knowing their scales quite as well, and I can show them where they were marked down on their scales because they didn't play all the right notes, and as a result of all of that, they didn't achieve what they thought they should achieve.
Mm.
And it's very objective based, so you have to take something that's emotional, keep it down to the facts, take it out of the emotional level, just
Mhm.
to the facts and the assessment,
Right.
and then you provide them with the foundation to understand, um, you know, why their child maybe didn't get what they wanted. But like I said, most of the times parents just want to be listened to,
Mm.
and if there's something that we can work together, I can identify well, if they structure their practice in a certain way, then they can have a higher level of achievement. They can come in and play for me when it's not the audition, and we can work on strategies to help them get better, or they can go to any director and do that. They can get private lessons. There's so many things that they can do to help them to achieve better. And ultimately, those are the things that we can identify in that meeting. But I think it's important to make sure that you listen, make sure that you understand that child is that parent's baby,
Right.
and you have to give them the foundation to make their argument, and you need to listen, and then you need to use non-emotional based things to make your point, in terms of whatever decision you made based on the facts.
Okay, so let's talk about some specific populations of students. So how do you deal with learners with special needs in your learning environment?
That's what's awesome. I think band is a place for everyone.
Mhm.
And so I've had students that didn't talk.
Mm.
And I've had students that were confined to a wheelchair and had very little mobility in their arms even.
Mm.
And we still found a way that they could participate. I had a student with cerebral palsy, and we had a symbol that we had set up, and we just said, "Man, hit it when you can."
Mm.
And this is the area in this part of the piece, you can hit it anytime you want, or anytime that you're capable. And he was able to do that, and it actually added to our performance. And he was able to have a unique experience. And I was really proud of that, because a lot of people were very intimidated. It can be very intimidating as a teacher if you're not used to dealing with special needs kids. And a lot of teachers don't have the foundation and the training, to be able to incorporate those kinds of kids in what's going on in the classroom, and they feel intimidated by it. And so I had conversations with our special ed teachers,
Right.
and found out how we could modify things so that he could have a great experience. And he had a wonderful experience, and it made us all grow.
Right.
And so, I think there's always ways you communicate with the right people, the people that have the experience and the knowledge, and when working with those students, and then you can modify anything in any class to accommodate their needs so that they can have the same experience as any other child. And I think that's what's really important.
Right. And what about gifted learners?
Gifted learners are sometimes just as challenging, because if you don't keep them involved, they get bored. And then they can actually cause a lot of issues in your classroom just because they're not on task, because it's beneath them. So what I think it's great in music is there's so many levels that we can ask the students to do. And so generally what we do with our gifted and talented students is we challenge them to think more. We challenge them to think in different ways.
Right.
And so whereas we may ask the students 2 goals in our class, if you're an advanced learner, I might give you 4 goals. And just to challenge them in that way. We always talk, there's ways that we work on subdividing. So we can subdivide in 1/8 notes, we can subdivide in 16th notes. So I'll structure my class and I'll say, if you're on an AP level, and I don't ever say you're AP, you're not, they get to decide. So if you're an AP student, then what I want you to do is I want you to subdivide in 16th notes. If you don't feel like you're to that level, then you can just subdivide in 1/8 notes, or you can subdivide in 1/4 notes. So now I'm providing differentiation in my classroom. And I'm also making sure that I'm meeting the needs of all different levels of students in doing that. And that's one strategy that we use to work with our gifted and talented students.
Right. And how do you support learners who have English as their second language in your environment, in your music class?
What's great about music, again, is that music is like a foreign language. So we work to structure it so that we might have a partner that we put with them that can maybe has an understanding of that language, whether it be Spanish. That's a lot of our students. But there are times where I've had students that are Chinese. And so I've actually had another student that knew Mandarin, and they could talk to them a little bit in Mandarin to help them understand what we were doing.
Right.
But the basic foundation of the music was all the same.
Mhm.
And so we really worked to make sure that we had strategies, and we worked with the EL teachers
Right.
to find out things that we could do. Sometimes we would translate things in our notes that we were giving to students, or those kinds of things, so that we
Mhm.
could make sure we were meeting their needs.
Right. All right. So, Mr. Munoz, tell us 3 words that you would use to describe yourself.
Energetic, intense.
Mhm.
It's I call it my 3 E's, but it's not E. It sounds like an E, but it's not. Energetic, intense, and enthusiastic.
Okay. All right. And if we were to talk to your supervisor, what are 3 words that they would use to describe you?
The very best.
Oh,
No, I'm
awesome.
just kidding. I'm just kidding. That they would say that I'm a good listener. They'd say that I'm a good collaborator,
Mhm.
and they would say that I'm a global thinker,
Oh,
and I'm not structured just in looking at what I'm doing. I can see things from the perspective of what's needed on the campus.
wonderful. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our interview. What questions do you have for me?
I as the principal, I'm very curious in terms of what kind of supports do you provide to your teachers on your campus?
Well, we have a very robust mentoring program on our campus, both for brand new teachers and teachers that are new to our campus as well, because we understand that every campus functions a little bit differently. Um, and we know that new teachers would need some support, but sometimes when you're in a brand new environment, those teachers need some support as well. So there are educators on campus that can support you with that. And at district level as well, we have directors from each of the specials area, and they are always willing and ready to support. And then there are scheduled meetings that we have throughout the year that you meet with the experts in your field, and then it's a learning process. So those are the supports that we have.
Great. I'm just curious in terms of how is the coordination from the campus level to the district office level in terms of what what kind of freedom do they provide you as the principal to govern your campus, and is it top down, or do you have a lot of autonomy to meet the needs of the students on your campus?
So there is a little bit of both, but predominantly as principals, we do have a lot of autonomy based on the needs, because each campus would, would actually a little bit more different than each other. We have 11 campuses, elementary campuses in the district. We are very different in the sense we house about over 750 learners on our campus, whereas our footprint schools, they have close to 300, 400. So the district understands that our needs might be different than other campuses. So as far as decisions are concerned, as a principal, we do have control over what happens on our campus. Of course, we do have to inform the district of what is happening, but then the principals have a lot of autonomy as well.
Okay. And then what would a teacher see and hear um, of you, during the course of the year?
I think the biggest thing would be I am a strong believer in building authentic relationships. Children and adults can tell when you're not being genuine. So I think it's, we throw the term around quite a bit, building relationships, but I think it's important to understand that, you genuinely have to be interested and involved in your community. And especially with kids and their families as well. The educators on our campus would see us and the assistant principals. We strive to be visible where we can be in classrooms, where we can be in the cafeteria, where we can be in the gym and in the music classroom, just so we are aware of what is happening have our finger on the pulse of the school. And of course, that also leads us to knowing and understanding what our teachers need. sometimes, you know, teachers are so busy teaching the class and planning ahead and ahead, they tend to forget about themselves and what they need. So being in those classes help us understand what are some professional developments that we need, what are some systems that we need to tweak and improve upon, and who are those teachers that need that extra TLC so we can be supportive and we can be there. And same goes for kids as well. I would like to think that coming to the principal's office should not be an indication that a child is in trouble. I want to build those relationships with my learners where if they have something to celebrate, they can come see me or the other APs just to celebrate their accomplishment. I think that helps keeping the environment positive and productive.
Right. And just curious, what are your expectations for elective teachers? What are you wanting them to provide?
I think all the elective teachers, like you mentioned in one of your answers, a big part, I mean, I strongly believe, you know, we have state standards to follow for music, art, and PE, but also those subject areas to me are equally as important as core subject, because if you ask any child in the classroom, what is your favorite? They will name one of those 3 subjects before they name any of the content. Well, and recess. Everybody tends to think recess is their favorite subject too.
Can we get credit for that?
Yeah. So I think those things are important. So I feel like the social emotional aspect of teaching with content is a strong bond that our special teachers provide. So I value that. And it brings so much activity into our school with music performances, with fun runs, with art shows. So I think it brings the community together. Those events, those subject areas bring parents into the school. So I value that. It's like a glue that holds our school together.
Right.
Well,
that's all the questions I have.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I am going to you know, interview some other candidates, and I will definitely get back to you with whatever direction we choose to go with. You will hear from me soon about this interview.
Well, I appreciate your time, and I just want to express how excited I am about this opportunity, and I would be honored to be selected to work on your campus.
Wonderful. Wonderful. It was very nice to meet you, and I'll touch base with you very soon.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.